Welcome to my YouTube channel, Crafty Pat, where I talk about different crafts I do, mainly fiber arts. This is a FlossTube, which if you're not familiar with FlossTube, they are videos about cross-stitching. And I don't know which number this is for me. I think it's 7 or 8, but I'll put that in the title. So it's been a couple of months. Things were just kind of crazy. But I have a finish. And I have updates on 3 works in progress. So, first of all, I will get started with my finish. And by the way, I am on Instagram. On Instagram, I'm known as Pat Pitter, P-A-T-P-I-T-T-E-R. So, my first finish, it came from this book from early 1960s, Women's Day Book of American Needlework. It was edited by Rose Wilder Lane, who was the daughter of Laura Ingalls Wilder of Little House fame, who wrote all the Little House books. If you only know about the TV show and you don't know about the books, I highly recommend them. Also, Rose was an author as well and a newspaper journalist, but she has a couple of novels that were out in the early 1900s, I believe, late 1800s. They're for adults, they're not for children, like Little House. Anyway, so in this book, as you can see on the front, there's lots of different needle crafts, but there is cross stitch. And there, in a previous video, I talked about some of the cross stitch that's in here. There's samplers, and there's one pattern in this book. But to get all the patterns, you need to buy a separate box that has patterns for every craft that's in here. It includes all the cross-stitch patterns, and that's what's sticking out of here. So the first one I'm working on, I finished one, I'm working on another. This is a photocopy of the sampler from the museum, and I forgot which museum it is in. It's Anzolette Hussey, age 9. Is also known as the slate sampler because this dark fabric looks like a child slate they would use in school. And this was done in 1821. So the patterns were done in like 1960, 61 by McCall's. They are difficult to read at times, and the colors are not DMC numbers or anchor numbers. They're just red, light pink. So I have been watching, I watch FlossTubes of We Are Curious Crafters. I will put a link below to their channel. And they do a lot of samplers. And they, a few months ago, kind of put a challenge out there to people on YouTube and on their Instagram, which is also we.are.curious.crafters, to pick a piece. It didn't have to be a sampler, I don't think, but pick a piece and choose your own colors. Print it out in black and white and choose your own colors. So that's what I did with this, is since I had to choose my own colors anyway, because, yeah, their list was skimpy, I printed in black and white, and up here I've written the colors I used. And some of it was experience. Sometimes I used a color, did a few stitches, and went, that's not good. So anyway, without any further ado, here is the finished piece. I did it on a light gray, and this is done on 30 count Parisian gray legacy linen. And I am really in love with it. Some of these things, like I said, going back and looking, I don't think their trees were green, but I used bright colors. I didn't want it to look antique. And in place of her name, I did another alphabet that I got off of another sampler from the same book. I did this other alphabet and the letters I didn't know if I was going to have room for the alphabet. I was like, I'm just going to go. And if I have room left over, I'll do the numbers, which is what I did. And then I put the year 2025 in. I need to put my initials somewhere on here. And of course, I need to frame this somehow, but I'm happy with it. I'm very happy with it. It's about 11 by 12 inches, the stitched area. I finished it on, I'm looking at my notes, I finished it on July 30th. I'm sorry, July 20th. And like I said, I'm very pleased with it. Their hashtag on Instagram was the sampler color exploration. And they just released a video a few days ago of showing some other people's work. And you can go to Instagram and see their work. But yeah, I think the pattern had this green and these little flowers all the same color. But I did this real pale pink and a darker pink here. The little birds are satin stitched, if you can see. This, I was a little concerned about doing. I've not had good luck with satin stitch in the past. This row of alphabet is all satin stitch. And I really enjoyed it. And by the way, I used all DMC threads. It's 2/2 on 30 count. And I really like the way that satin stitch alphabet came out. I would definitely do that again. So that's Anzolette Hussey, aged 9 years, November 7th, 1821, also known as the Slate Sampler. And so I also watch Jackie of Comfort Stitching. I'll have to put the link below, her YouTube, and she's also on Instagram. Where she does samplers, and this is one reason I wanted to do these samplers was I have been inspired by We Are Curious Crafters and by Jackie to do a reproduction of a historic sampler. And I already had this book. I already had these samplers, the patterns. So what a better place to start than that. Jackie likes to do some research of who the original stitcher was. Where did she live? Who was she? What happened to her? Sometimes that's hard to track down, but this particular item is online. I will link below the museum that it's currently housed in. I think it may be in the Smithsonian. It may not be on display right now, but you can view it online. So I went online and found out some more information about her, and she was born in 1812 to Captain Andrew and Mary Tridick Hussey in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. She was, she later, in 1835, she married Ebenezer Knight, who was also a captain. And the two of them had 5 daughters, Mary, Ariadne, spelled Ariadne, Ariadne, Hannah, Sarah, and Abby. Her husband, Captain Knight, he died in 1853 at 41 or 42 years old in San Francisco, California. He was, there was more information about him online. I thought I had it written out here, and now I don't see it. He was apparently pretty well known in San Francisco and had a pretty high status there, but died suddenly, and he ended up being buried in California. Anzolette lived until 1895. So she lived another 40-something years after he did. Unfortunately, most of their 5 children, she outlived all but one. The oldest, Mary, died at around 14 or 15 years old. Ariadne died at 35 years old. Hannah died at 6 years old, and Sarah died as an infant, 1 year or less. Abby, the youngest, lived to be 68. She died after Anzolette. She died in 1918. And they lived in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, but apparently spent a lot of time in Brooklyn, New York. And that's where the children all died. The younger ones died in Brooklyn, but then they were buried in Portsmouth. The sampler was done on linsey woolsey and had silk embroidery thread. So her second oldest daughter, Ari Andy, I keep having a hard time with that one, was married and died at 35. Her younger sister, Abby, married her widower, her husband. And then Abby died in Augusta, Georgia in 1918. She was 68 years old. She was visiting Georgia for the milder winters, for a milder climate than in D.C., but she's buried in Baltimore. So I found that interesting, and I'll put her name below in the description and the links to find out more about her. But I wanted to thank Jackie for kind of spurring that thought of finding out, who was this young girl? What happened to her? And in this case, we happened to be able to find her. And a lot of cases you can't. And Jackie has run into that with one of her earlier stitches last year or earlier this year. But yeah, you can see this is the color key: blue, cream, gold. So I had to choose them anyway. So I really enjoyed doing this. I want to thank We Are Curious Crafters for inspiring this. And there were a few times I stitched a few letters or numbers with a color and went, nah, that's not right. I got to change it up. And I know a lot of people would probably do it in more muted color so it looks antique, but this is what I wanted to do. This is what and like I said, I'm very happy with it. I just need to get it framed. So that's my finished object. I don't have a fully finished object. So that led me to another sampler from this book. Sorry about that. Hit the camera. Which is the largest one in here. And it's called the Cat Sampler. And it's hard to get a picture of it. The picture in the book is hard to see. I looked online. I cannot find a better high resolution photo of it. So I took the picture in the book and I enlarged it and printed it at home. But you can see what's called the Cat Sampler. And this one was done by Eliza and Edwards in 1826. And you can see there's lots of little motifs. There's boats. There's little animals. These are little people. And then these kind of stylized flowers. The house with swans or geese, whatever they are. Another animal. I think that's a deer. I'm going to hold it up close so you can see. And this elaborate border. And again, the sampler color key is just medium green, true salmon. So I have used these as reference. I didn't just go completely rogue with it or choosing the colors. This is a large one. This is large. Okay, let me tell you how large it is. Finished, it's going to be 18 inches by 23 inches. I had to buy a yard of fabric. I have now cut the fabric down. Once I've got the border, most of the border in, I cut the fabric down. It was a lot of fabric. It was 35 by 36 inches. So here I am. Put this behind a board so you can see it. Hopefully I can get it all on camera here. You can see it's quite large. So I've got the framework in for the border. So that makes it easier. This odd thread up here is, when I first started, I needed to mark where, I started in the upper left, and I needed to mark where was the upper left so I didn't turn my fabric upside down or anything like that. I'll show you details in a minute as I tell you more about the fabric. This fabric is 30 count honey glaze linen. And I said the finished piece is going to be about 18 by 23. I started it in July. These are my color choices so far. Now, this color here it is a dark green, but I think it's reading a little black, almost a dark blue. I may take that out and do a different green. I'm not real sure. And then, like some of these that are blues, I am giving myself permission, so to speak, to go just because, okay, my light's blinked. Just because, okay, my light is on because my power blinked. Let me turn my light back on. Okay, there, we can see a little better now. We aren't having bad weather. I don't know why the power blinked. So this, just because I'm using pink here for whatever that symbol is, if the symbol somewhere is somewhere else, I may use a different shade of pink. But I started in the upper left, and I've done, as you can see, down this side, and I did this odd little, each corner has some odd little motif. And then I was going to do the whole border and then start on the motifs, but I just got too excited and couldn't wait. So here's some photo again. So this is the photo again. The pattern has a few mistakes in it, the chart. The other part is, like all of this, they give you like a corner and then they're like, oh yeah, just repeat it. So yeah, it's like this. You just need to repeat that. You need to repeat motif A and B, which is difficult to do. So I have to, so the pattern, I'll show you parts of it. Like this is one corner. So have this printed out in a larger, I had to enlarge it from what was in the chart. I sit here with it, turning it depending on which direction which border I'm stitching on. I know at one point I got off one stitch here, but I decided I'm just going to let it go. So I started up here, I went down and across, and then went across and down. And so, and now they recommend starting in the bottom center. I recommend you start in one corner, because if you are off by one or two stitches, you can kind of work it out in the corner, because these corners aren't exact. And honestly, I don't think the chart matches this picture exactly. So you can that's a good place to fudge it, is in these corners, is, just come at it from both directions till you get to that corner. And, if this is off a little bit, it doesn't matter. It's like a little animal right there. I don't know what it is. I said, it's really hard to see this. There are some places where the chart is incorrect, that it's like, okay, this should be, you think that, you're like, oh yeah, I'm just doing the same thing. And then I look at the chart and it's like, missed a few stitches on that chart. So I filled them in. The other thing that's tricky is this motif here. I'll show you on my piece. This motif here is not exactly symmetrical. And let me see if I can show you. So on this side, that pink has 3 stitches there. On this side, it only has 2. I just went with it, and so I made them all that way. That all of them have 3 on each each outside of the little pink flower. But these two here, the ones closest to this, are 2 stitches of pink, and there's an extra stitch of green. Oh, and this is going to have some pink in it. This is 2 different shades of pink, what they call a salmon, and one's called peach pink. And I have, I know DMC doesn't actually give their colors names, but there are some charts out there that'll give you some names to at least get you in the right category of, oh yeah, this is a peach pink. Oh, this is a salmon. And DMC normally has like, okay, if you look at, for example, for salmon, I found DMC number 760. One chart said DMC 760 was salmon. But, around that, you're going to find light salmon, dark salmon. You're going to find 3 or 4 shades of that salmon. So that made it simpler for me to find, to get a starting point. And like I said, but this dark green, I just keep looking at it going, I want it dark, but I'm not sure I like that because this is going to be the lawn across here and there's more of this flowers. So I've kind of put it aside for the moment. And again, I'm using a lot of bright colors. I'm not using, they're kind of bright, but then sometimes they're not. You would want to decide, do you want the bright colors or do you want it to look faded? And probably a lot of this would look good, like some of this green and this lawn probably would look good in an overdyed that has a little bit of variation. Just depends on the look you want. But I have enjoyed, and like that vase, you can't see it, but there's actually some yellows, and there's some of these colors are down in here. There's a few other changes I think I've made where I'm like, yeah, that doesn't look right to me. That if I, like these trees, I haven't gotten to them yet, but they're all green. I may put the tree trunk and the bottom part as brown. I don't know. I may use a different shade of green. There's not much back stitching, I don't think at all in this, if any. Then they recommend some of these little motifs, like this little animal, and I think even this beehive. They recommend doing those in satin stitches, if not, because they were originally done 1/1, and I'm doing 2/2 with this 30 count. I'm going to try doing those 1/1 and see how it looks. If it doesn't look good, I can take it out. So again, that's the Cat Sampler by Eliza Ann Edwards. Her work in 1826. I don't know how old she was, and I haven't looked up a lot of information about her yet. So, and that's at the Brooklyn Museum, or that Brooklyn Museum in New York owned it when this was taken in 1960. I'm pretty sure, like I said, I'm pretty sure the Anzolette is owned by the Smithsonian. Okay, so the next sampler I'm working on is from the 90s. Home is Where the Heart Is by Cooler Design Studios. And I'll show you the picture again because you haven't seen my earlier videos or you've forgotten. That's what it's going to look like. And I'm almost finished. Good enough. Forward good. You don't see through it. Homegrown, happiness is homemade. I'm almost finished. This one, I tend to jump around a lot, but this one I tried to let me just start at the top and work my way down as best I can. Obviously, at times I've done some border here, but all this is, there is a lot of outlining in this. This is an 18 count white Ada, DMC 2/1. I don't remember if I mentioned this last time. This chart is a little frustrating. There are some errors in the chart. And I got down to about right here, and realized this dark blue and this blue backwards. And it wasn't me. It's the chart. They charted it backwards. In their example, this is, in their picture, this is dark blue and that's light blue. And then also affects the dark blue that's in the border. No, I'm not taking it out because unless I pointed at it, I don't think you know. You can't tell. I am enjoying this one. It obviously, there's a lot of repetition, like with these houses. The teddy bears are almost identical. The cows are almost identical. I think they may be, yeah, their spots are different. The teddy bears aren't exactly identical. But there were a few places where they had the wrong, like one of them, the cow's leg was brown, but in the picture it's obviously gray to show it's in the shadow. It's just her far leg. But I've been working on it some this week. I'm down to here. It's hard to see, but those are stitches right there. They're just really light blue. I like all the fruits and vegetables up here, the cornucopia. You can see this back stitching. Back stitching really brings it out. You really do need to do the back stitching. The back stitching is in different colors. It's one thread, depending on what your back stitching as to what shade it is. But yeah, I'm almost done. I'm not rushing through it at this point, but you can see this is the bottom will be here. This is my gridding. I take the threads out before I stitch to them so that I don't get them stuck in there, but it does help at least to have them there as I get started in an area. But yeah, I'm just coming down. And it also helped when I'm doing this border because there's places down here that need to be skipped. And so that having the grid here helped me with counting on the border. And yeah, again, that was from Home is Where the Heart Is. That was published in like 90 or 91. Real 90s look. I picked this up at a thrift store. And then my last work in progress is, and Home is Where the Heart Is will be about 9 by 13 inches. And I started it in March. The stitch counted is 160 by 232. Is this fellow? Is my next one. Young Man's Fancy. Came from Cross Stitch and Country Crafts magazine in March, April 1993. Previous videos I showed, I finished his sister, which was from March, April 1992, which is called Sunday's Best. You can find these magazines and patterns on eBay. At times you can find the magazines. I think there is one book they put out that had both of these in it. If you look at the Cross Stitch and Country Crafts books, there's one that shows this on the back cover. I don't own that book, but so there's the picture of the girl. I started it in the 90s. I just finished it this year, 2025. But hey, I finished it. This is done on, let me look at my notes, 28 count amber toasted almond linen, which all my linen I ordered from 123 Stitch. I used 1/4 yard. It was called amber linen, but now sometimes it's called toasted almond linen. Yeah, it just says amber linen. It doesn't say the brand, but if you go to 123 Stitch, you can find it. It's going to be about 17 by 10 inches. The stitch count is 240 by 138. That's 24,538 stitches. And it's almost full coverage. I mean, just call it full coverage. There's this little bit of light right here that's not stitched, but it's pretty much full coverage. And you're going to need a lot of extra skeins of these browns and these blue grays. So where I am on that one, I can hold this one up. Well, no, let me put the board behind it. It makes it look a little better. I was trying to be organized because I had a, okay, these odd things up here is where when I first started, I did do some gridding to make sure I was counting across, and I put the column numbers across here so that I could keep up with it. And once I got down to about here, I just stopped. And again, this one, instead of skipping around, I used to do, I started at the top. And as you can see, I'm like at least a third of the way through, I'm pretty sure. You can see here the part that doesn't have any stitching. I may need to do some stitching in there. I may need to do a little. No, that's it. Some of it's 1 over, this dark brown is 2 over 2. Unless that's 28 count. Oh, there's a lot of blended needle in here. And then here you start getting, some of these are 1 over 2. And then there's just one cross, just one leg of the X is how you get all that shading. And a lot of the shading comes from, and I know he looks a little spooky without his eyes and lips. His eyes and lips are done in what they call petite point, which means it's 2 over 1. The boy is done with 3 over 2. Yes, 28 count with 3 over 2. So he's more dense. The biggest problem I keep having is trying to remember I need to do 3, because some of this I've done and had to rip out because I got a good section done, and when something doesn't look right, and it's because I did use 2 strands instead of 3. Again, this is all BMC. There are 56 different colors. Their print is called for, but I don't know if I'm going to use it. It's for this leash on the squirrel and his collar. And I think I talked about this before. I'm not even sure if I'm going to put the leash on there. It may just be the squirrel's just sitting there. But he's a friendly little squirrel. Like I said, there are quite a few. There are 10 different colors that you get that are blended. You use blended needles. So you use 1 of one color and 1 of another, or 2 of one color and 1 of another. There's back stitch, straight stitch, French knot, chain stitch, and half cross, which is the 1 over 2. And then the petite cross stitch, which is 2 over 1 for the eyes and mouth. Started this in May, and I said I'm pretty happy with it. I think I'm about a third of the way down, at least a third. I think I'm a good third of the way down. I don't keep up with exact counts, but it is nice that when I'm not working on this, I have it hanging over a chair and to look over and go, oh, that's looking good. Which is an advantage of doing it this method of starting at the top and working down, or if you prefer start at the bottom and work up, is that instead of skipping all over, because I really see the progress this way. When I would be like, oh, I feel like going down here and here and here. And I did have more of a grid, but I took it out because I'm not using it. You just don't get the same satisfaction. At least I don't. So, that's my, I don't do a lot of WIPs at one time. I have other projects going on in my life. I don't need lots of cross-stitch WIPs. So I have 3 going on. Actually, I have 4. There's another one I have that I haven't worked on. So, to have lots of projects at one time would mess with my brain in not a good way. So I prefer it this way. I look in awe at those of you who have 40 or 50 WIPs and who rotate through them and have WIP go and all those goals and everything. That's not the way I process it. I prefer to work on what I feel like working on that day. And I try to alternate them so I don't get burnout, because there are days where the sampler, I got really frustrated with it a few months ago because I just really did too much of it for a long period. I was just stitch, and kind of got tired of seeing it. So I put it aside, and I'm trying to take it in small chunks. So that's my one finish, my 3 WIPs. My plans are to keep working on these 3. When I finish, expect this one to be the next finish. The cat sampler is going to take a very long time. Like I said, it is huge. It is 18 by 23. And I'm having to interpret the chart some and choose colors and make decisions, and at times rip things out because it's like, it's not the color I want it to be. But I'm okay with that because I'm more of a process stitcher. I do want the finished project as well, hanging in my house one day, but I enjoy the process. And so these three give me enough variety of, you know, this one has a lot of, if I just feel like doing something repetitive, I can work on this border. The same with this guy. I can do more of this dark brown, and then I've got some fill in to do because there's all his background. And then the cat sampler has a lot of little motifs. I do need to, or if I want to do something somewhat repetitive, is doing these motifs around, which it's complicated enough that you've still got to look at the chart. At least I did. I can't remember it from this motif down to this motif. So I still have to look at the chart and make sure I'm oriented in the right way. Because like I said, down here at the bottom, and I got to make sure, well, which one am I on? Okay. And the same, you know, when I get to the other side, it's the mirror image of this one, I think. So it's going to be a challenge, which is fine. I just work on it a little bit at a time. I do, as you can see, I wear glasses. I am farsighted. I can't see this. I can see, if I've got bright enough light, I can see to do this without magnification, but I have a magnifying ring light that I use next to my chair, so I can see this even better. I don't travel a lot with my cross stitch. The few times lately that I have tried this year, I didn't do well. Like trying in a doctor's office, or I have a group of friends, we get together and do some mainly knitting and crochet, but I took my cross stitch, but it's like I need too much space. I kind of want to spread out. I need my pattern, and I need my threads, and da 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 da. And also the light wasn't good where we meet, and I didn't want to wear my heads. I have a headlamp with magnifiers, and I just wasn't paying attention because I was talking and listening to others talk. So I just used my lamp, my floor lamp that has a magnifier on it. And like this one, I can work on this 18 count. I can work on it with just my prescription glasses, but using the magnifier kind of makes it a little bit easier. I know some people can't use the magnifier. I know it bothers them that it still makes it hard to see. So, okay, so that's all that I have this month, and I hope to start posting more. And I also am trying to get set up to start posting more about sewing machines and how to use those. I recently made me a pair of pants, just rather simple pattern, elastic waist. No, I don't have a picture. I am finishing up a tunic type blouse pattern I bought online. Again, I don't have a picture. But those are some other things I'm doing, and I will, I hope to be doing that more coming up, and kind of getting over some challenges in my personal life about making videos and posting them and getting more organized about it. So the sewing machine videos may be on a different channel. I still haven't decided on that yet. I probably am going to put them on a different channel. If so, then I'll mention that and link to it in the notes when I start posting on that other channel, because it's just different. And also I have a small business of cleaning and servicing sewing machines, and so I want to link my business to that channel so I can tell people, well, I do have a video about that if you want to go look at it, or I can link from my website to that channel. I don't know that most other sewing machine people are going to be interested in FlossTube and some of the other, and slow stitch and that sort of thing. So if you've dealt with that, or you have any ideas or suggestions of how you would want to see that as a customer or as a viewer, please leave me a comment below. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, if you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up and click subscribe and leave a comment below. Let me know what you think, and I will see you again soon. Bye.